So I just want to get enough paint on from the pipette where I feel like I'm raising the surface tension so that these colours work better. I'm going to start with the dark colour, so black, and then the darker blue, and I'm getting it inside of the black. And then I've got a lighter tone of blue which has iridescence in it, so when it dries on the paper it will give it a shimmer. And because I want more of that royal blue, I'm going to get a bit more of that in there. And the more paint I put on, the higher the surface tension's going, so all of the colours will appear darker in tone. And now I've got white with iridescence, which is actually going to give us a silver look on the dried paper. Don't know how silver that's going to look on the camera. Probably just going to look like a sort of a whitish. Get a little bit more blue in there. Can't have enough blue, can you? It's Pompey after all. Now I'm going to do the gel git, which just means come and go. Gel is come, git is go. If you've ever been for a lesson with me, you're going to have me telling you to do gel git repeatedly throughout the day. Okay, now because we're going to use the comb, so you want your gel git to run horizontal so that when we put the comb in, those lines are perpendicular to the way we're going to run the comb. Pull that all the way down. So we could leave it like that, but to make it look even more like there's even more movement like the sea, if you've ever visited the Solent, you'll know that it's always moving. Very rare for it to be calm. There's always some movement, particularly between Gosport and Portsmouth, the entrance to the harbour. That water's always turbulent. Okay, so now we're going to make our Star and Crescent right in the centre. So we're going to start off with the white. I'm going to give that 2 drops, so we've got a decent sized circle to work with. Basically, the bigger it is, the easier it is to work with. When you get more skilled, then the smaller and smaller you can start to work with. So I'm putting this first blob of blue right on the very perimeter of the circle. So I want it to start coming down to create the crescent. So I'm going to come to the bottom of that circle now. See, it's naturally forming the crescent shape. And again, when we come to do the star, so basically the wider the top of the crescent is, the easier it's going to be to work with. So the more blue we put in, opens up the crescent, and it's just going to make it a bit easier for us to get that star where we want it. So I'm going to give it another. So we've got a nice crescent shape, and now there's space here for the star. Because we want to get 8 points on this star, we need that at decent size as well. Again, the bigger it is, the easier you're going to find it to work with. Because we've got a bit of space between the top of the crescent, I'm going to go one more, and the surface tension is quite high, so that's naturally overcoming the ox gall that's in the white. So this is trying to open up, but the surface tension is trying to close it down. So now they've found their equilibrium and they've kind of stopped there. They're resting. They found their point of balance, and now I'm going to start working with it. So I'm going to come down, up, because we're dividing it in 8. So I'm going to start by dividing it in 4. Always going opposite. If you go opposite, you've got a much better chance of keeping it nice and symmetrical. So now it looks like a little daisy at the moment. So now we can start pulling out to make the point of the star. And I'm only just breaking the surface. I'm just using the tackiness of the liquid, pulling out so I've got points now on all of them. Now to really make it look like a star, we need to close it up because it's still looking a little bit too much like a flower. So we make this tool really nice and dry with our cloth. Really dry all the way up, because we're going to plunge all the way in. So we hover over the center and then we plunge and we draw up slowly, making sure we're in the center. So now it's looking more like a star. Now we're closing it up. So I'm going to plunge one more time. Okay, that's not bad. Pretty symmetrical. We've got our Star and Crescent, so now I'm going to capture that on paper. So it's an instant transfer, instant bind to the paper. Wipe the edge off, make sure it's really nice and clean, because we're actually going to draw the paper over the edge, making contact with the edge of the tray. So the edge of the tray is smooth, so we pull the paper to the edge of the tray and we glide it over the edge. I mean, I'll be showing you that in the class in real time, so hopefully this is what you're going to end up with. And then once that's dried out, you begin the book binding. Over to Hamza.